Why is it so hard to make a good Superman movie? So, Superman, he isn't just any superhero. He's the superhero. He's the blueprint, the origin, and the inspiration behind so many stories that we love today. Despite, or perhaps because of his status as an icon, Hollywood seems to struggle with getting Superman right. And why is that? And what does that mean for James Gunn's upcoming Superman movie? What does he need to do to finally capture or recapture the heart of the character in today's world? Before we dive in, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any discussions like this one. Superman isn't just a man in a cape. He is a symbol of hope and resilience and doing the right thing, even when it's real hard. But symbols can be tricky sometimes. Over the years, Superman has had moments of brilliance. Director Richard Donner's Superman, the movie starring Christopher Reeve, set the gold standard for superhero storytelling. But all stars eventually fall, giving us Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, which turned Superman into something almost cartoonish. At his best, Superman inspires us. At his worst, he feels outdated and irrelevant. So, how do you make a godlike hero relatable to modern audiences? And more importantly, how do you make us care about him when society's needs and expectations are constantly changing and when these films can take years to produce from concept to opening weekend? So again, what makes a good Superman movie today? Let's break it down. For a Superman movie to work in 2025, it needs to do a few key things and avoid a few big pitfalls. First and foremost, Superman must embody hope, but not blind optimism. Superman is at his core a story about hope, but hope is a choice. The best Superman movies show him struggling with hard choices, impossible odds, and still finding a way forward. Second, the humanity of Clark Kent matters. Superman isn't an infallible, godlike hero in a cape. He just isn't. He's also Clark Kent, the farm boy, the journalist, the man with all of the needs and desires of a person. A Superman movie that ignores Clark Kent as a central character will feel hollow because that's where we identify with his humanity. And it's in those quieter moments where we truly connect with him. Third, consequences matter. One of the biggest criticisms and one of my biggest pet peeves about so many superhero movies is how often they overlook the human cost of these massive battles. Audiences expect big, epic showdowns, but yeah, they have to serve the story. And Superman's job isn't just to win battles, it's also to minimize the loss of life. And if lives are lost, the movie must acknowledge that human cost and honor those stakes because the audience, and I mean you and me, are all of those random people in the story. All of those people represent us and our needs. For a villain who challenges his values. So Superman isn't about physical strength as much as he is about moral character and moral strength. A great villain doesn't just punch Superman. And let's face it, Lex Luthor's punch, it wouldn't even land, wouldn't even touch him. So he has to bring something else to the table. He has to find Superman's weakness, forcing him to question his values. And Lex Luthor has to figure out what he can do better than Superman. And let's face it, just because Superman is strong and has all of these talents doesn't mean he's good at everything. Lex Luthor challenges his hope and his humanity, while characters like Zod, who is Superman's equal in physical strength, forces him to choose between two worlds. The villain must test Superman where it hurts most. Now, let's talk about the importance of Superman's friends and families, because that is core to who he is. Superman is often seen as this untouchable, godlike figure, but his humanity is fostered through his relationships, and it shines brightest through the human connections he shares with those who are closest to him. Lois Lane, who serves as his anchor. Lois Lane isn't just Superman's love interest. She's his intellectual equal and moral anchor. Lois challenges him, supports him, and keeps him connected to humanity.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you?
She's not someone he saves constantly. She's someone who also saves him and does it every day in different ways, keeping him from becoming detached from the people he's trying to protect. Jonathan and Martha Kent, they are the moral foundation for him. Superman isn't Superman because of his powers. He's Superman because of how he was raised and the values that his parents instilled in him as a child. And yeah, parents are the people who raise you as much as the people who give birth to you.
Can I just keep pretending I'm your son?
You are my son.
They model the behavior that Clark Kent takes on, and that translates to his role as Superman. Jonathan and Martha Kent instilled in Clark a sense of responsibility, of kindness and humility. Their influence is the reason he chooses to help rather than dominate. A Superman movie that ignores this foundation loses a critical layer of his character. Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, and the whole crew at the Daily Planet. You got to have a work-life balance that matters. And that's true even for Superman. While they might seem like secondary or tertiary characters in Superman's story, they help to ground Clark Kent in the day-to-day realities of human life. Perry White represents integrity. Jimmy Olsen symbolizes optimism. And Lois, his heart. They remind Clark of the world he's fighting for. When these relationships are pushed to the background or treated as afterthoughts, the emotional stakes of any Superman story automatically weaken because they are part of Superman's character. He is powerful, but he is not alone. And a great Superman movie understands that. So what makes a bad Superman movie today? While we know what works, we also know what doesn't. And some of these missteps are specific to Superman himself. First, too much darkness and too little heart is a big problem. Superman isn't Batman. He isn't brooding in the gloomy dark shadows. When a Superman movie leans too hard into cynicism, it loses what makes him special. He is the light. Audiences want to see his struggles. Yes, they absolutely do. But they also want to see him shine. Second, destruction without accountability. If Superman is going to level a city fighting a villain, we need to see him care about that destruction. We need to see that the destruction hurt that tender part of him that has become human. We need to see him pay that price.
Let the record show that this committee holds him responsible.
Audiences don't just want him to win the fight. They want him to protect people. Because remember, those nameless people, they're us. Third, forgetting Clark Kent. When Clark Kent disappears from the story, so does the emotional core of Superman. Clark isn't the disguise. He's the soft beating heart of the character that gives Superman something to fight for, or really something to fight with. The bigger problem, and this is the fourth one, the bigger problem with modern superhero movies as a whole is that we are facing fatigue. Audiences are starting to notice patterns that range from overstuffed plots to underdeveloped characters, Mary Sue's coming out of the woodwork, and sequels that are built more for cashing in on a franchise than telling a single cohesive story. And that just doesn't sell any longer. And then we also need to talk about the trap of technology. And this is something that superhero stories especially need to take into account when they start tipping into spectacle instead of story. Modern superhero movies have access to incredible technology. CGI has advanced to a point where almost anything is possible on screen, especially with the power of artificial intelligence. Massive battles, photorealistic aliens, entire cities collapsing in spectacular slow motion. It's all achievable and it's visually believable. But just because it can be done doesn't mean it should be done, especially at the expense of storytelling. This is the story first principle. A great movie, superhero or otherwise, starts with a strong narrative. Special effects should always serve the story being told, not cover up or stitch together its gaping flaws. Superman's greatest stories, they aren't defined by laser vision or super strength. No, they are defined by his choices. Technology should enhance those moments, not overshadow them. Spectacle is only a short-term box office win. Superman's stories also have to take into account today's social zeitgeist. They need to reflect the times they are made in. And what does that mean for 2025? In prosperous times, a perfect, morally unshakable Superman will definitely not work. Is that where we are today? I don't think so. People are struggling. We are feeling the pressure of politics, rising costs of goods, threats of war, and technology that is changing society and the way that we live. We are more divided than ever. So, what kind of Superman do we need, and what do we want from him today? Right now, we are living in a world of uncertainty, and that means we don't need Superman to be a savior. We need him to be a path to follow, someone who falters, someone who hurts, someone who struggles, but who still figures out how to get up, how to keep going, and how to keep caring.
Crypto. Home. Take me home.
But he also can't take himself too seriously, or social media will just eat him alive. We need to look ahead at Superman and what he's going to mean for us in 2025. And that leaves us with James Gunn's Superman. So what does that mean? He has a big task ahead of him in order to balance hope with vulnerability, action with accountability, and spectacle with heart. But here's the good news. The blueprint, it's there. The new trailer does seem to tap into most of those things, but will they be borne out in the movie when it's released? I guess we'll have to wait and see. The reports are that the DC and Warner Brothers executives are nervous. I mean, and why wouldn't they be, considering 2024. But the general audience members who were part of that special screening are also reported to actually enjoying the film despite the nervousness of the executives who are also there. That just goes to show that there is still this divide between what the studio thinks will sell on paper and what the audience will actually pay for at the theater. And we saw that also with Deadpool and Wolverine. The audience will come if the story is good, no matter what the studio executives think. The legacy of Superman isn't about being perfect. It's about trying, even if you are likely to fail. And if James Gunn understands that principle, he just might get this Superman movie right, and we might get the Superman we've all been waiting for, and frankly, the film that we all deserve. What do you think? What does a great Superman movie need to get right? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and hit like if you enjoyed this video. And don't forget to subscribe. That's it for now, but I will see y'all again soon. In the meantime, why not watch one of these videos? Thanks so much, everybody. See you later. Bye.